Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. As Victor mentioned, today I will be talking to you about building a second brain. But before I get into that, let me show you a quick graph. Too much information. We all know that there is a lot of information out there. I could have chosen how many books or articles come out, but for me, the part that I have the hardest information controlling is my emails. So if you look at this study from Statista, the number of emails sent and received per day worldwide from 2017 and projected into 2025 goes from 269 billion to 376.4 billion. That's a 40% increase over those 8 years. For me, I have little kids, and the second one was born in 2017, which is why this graph really resonates with me, is because I have not kept up with my emails since she was born. I was really good after the first one, but the second one, I just don't have the time for it. Well, today I'm going to be telling you about building a second brain and how it can help you contain all of that information and see how you can use it in the future. So, first, you might be asking, what is a second brain? I will go through that. How does it work and how do you build it? This is all based by a book from Tiago Forte called Building a Second Brain. Essentially, he goes through a method of using our digital life to be able to collect the information and get away from using our primary organic brain and leveraging technology to build that second brain. So what is it? Oops. A second brain is essentially a private knowledge collection designed to serve a lifetime of learning and growth. Think of it as anything that's external from your first brain. So maybe you have a notepad. A lot of people used to have this back in the day, even before digital was a thing. But you might have a notepad where you write down things so you don't have to remember it. Something sparks an interest in you. You want to remember it, but you don't want to waste that precious space in your brain to remember it. The best thing is to write it down. If we go to how we work today digitally, we know that we can use digital notes to retrieve them from one computer to another, from your computer to your phone. You can essentially retrieve your notes at any point in time if you have access to it, which is why you might want to think about going cloud-based. Once you have this second brain, you can offload all of that remembering and actually start using what your brain was built for. A productivity guru called David Allen is an author of Getting Things Done. And one of the things he says is that the mind is for having ideas, not for storing them. So how can we use this second brain to store all of this information and make it useful? Well, the first thing is knowing that it has 4 essential capabilities. First, it makes your ideas concrete. Something comes into your mind, something really sparks you and it drives you. If you don't write it down, you're like, what was that thing that I remembered earlier yesterday? Somebody said something that was very interesting. Write it down and you've already started the process. Second is it allows you to reveal new associations between the ideas, because now that you have it written down, what you can do is keep it all in one place. So you know exactly where you can go to go find what it was that was so interesting last week. Number 3 is it allows you to incubate your ideas over time. Maybe you've worked on a project in the past and you love the template that you use. Well, there's no reason why you should rebuild it 2-3 years later if you have the same type of project. What you can do is retrieve that information and retweak it for the purpose that you need. So you don't have to rely on what's available to you in that moment. You can rely on all of your experiences that you've had in the past day, the past week, the past year. And lastly, it allows us to sharpen our unique perspectives. If you start with a big page, it's really hard to get started. Everybody thinks, what's my next Toastmaster speech going to be about? But if you've looked ahead and you know these are the different projects that I have coming up, you'll be looking out for what information might I want to talk about, and you'll have already captured it. And you'll have all this raw material that you can start with so that you're ready to work on your next speech. The author, Tiago Forte, talks about this 4-part method for how do you build your second brain. The first step is capturing what resonates. Of course, you can't capture everything that comes into mind. You want to capture those things that really spark an interest in you. You don't want to become an information hoarder. You want to capture things that you know you can utilize later. Think of your future self and where you can use this information, not just where you're getting it from, which leads into organizing. A bespoke organization style that Tiago Forte talks about is para. Essentially, you can organize all of your information in a hierarchy. So you can start with projects. If it's related to a current project that you're working on, again, something that's very actionable in the moment, you can put it in that project folder. If it's not really related to a project you're currently working on, you can move it to an area. So maybe it's Toastmasters, maybe it's cooking. It might be of various other sorts, stuff that you can get to later. And then you have resources. Example, if you have some really cool screenshots that you don't exactly have a project that it fits into, you might want to throw it in your resource folder. And lastly, archives. You always want to kind of clear stuff out so you're not looking at too much information all at once. At some point, you're going to have to archive. But once you've got your organization style down, then you can do the D, distill. So you want to find that essence. And there's this progressive summarization when you're talking about how to distill the information. Maybe you start with a large chunk from a book of this is information. But the next time you touch it, you should be bolding the part that was important to you. And maybe the next time you look at it, you want to highlight why was it important so that the next time you look at it, you can quickly see this is why it was so important to me. And lastly, you have express. If we write down all these ideas and we don't share them with others or our future selves, then what are we writing all of this information down for? So you want to be able to express yourself. With that, I give you the challenge of giving your first brain a new job. Leave the remembering to your second brain. Having that capability to just be able to absorb the information allows you to think of how it can relate to others and how you can improve on whatever it is you're working on. I'll leave off with this quote from Tiago Forte saying, once your biology is no longer a bottleneck to your potential, you'll be free to expand the flow of information. So please think about how you can start using your second brain.